Let's hope it actually connects. There we go. It's kind of weird when you think about it because um, I mentioned this in my long rant that sort of went viral yesterday.
Yeah, that
Uh,
was really random.
isn't it weird how that happened? Like, I think you're like me in the sense of like, I'm on Twitter a lot. I rant about things a lot. And I was even trying yesterday to figure out like, what is the algorithm that made this thing get picked up? Because usually like if something gets a lot of press or it gets a lot of eyes, it's because one very famous or very prominent person or account like retweeted you or posted you. And there
Yeah.
wasn't really anything like that until middle of the day yesterday when Ben Shapiro retweeted me.
Oh, he retweeted it?
Yeah. So
Oh.
just one of the pieces from like the direct middle of the thread. But there wasn't but up until then there was like 50 or 60,000 impressions and it was like snowballing and it was all just sort of organic.
Okay, do you get offended? So I don't have much of a reach on Twitter at all, so I never pay attention to analytics because it just hurts my self-esteem more than it already is already hurting on its own.
Right.
So I tweeted something yesterday and it for me got a lot of likes. Like it got like 450 likes or something like that.
Yeah, normally that's a lot for me and I have a ton of followers.
Well, stop bragging because that for me is the most I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
But I looked at the impressions and it was like 40,000 impressions. And I'm like, wait a second, 40,000 people saw this and only 400 chose to hit like? What a
Yeah,
bunch of
that's
35,000 assholes.
it's really
It's offensive.
that really is how it goes too. It's weird because you're like, especially when you're like putting bits or comedy or content out, you're just like, what the fuck? Like why is this one not getting steam? And then you'll have ones that are stupid that get a lot of steam and you're like, that
Well,
doesn't
because
make
people are
any sense.
stupid. Well, people
Yeah,
are stupid.
maybe, but yeah, it's good to me. Like a good response rate is like a few hundred likes or retweets or whatever. And then in my history, generally if something gets into the thousands, it's because I've pissed a lot of people off.
Well, yeah.
So my stuff that gets into the thousands is usually the stuff that people try to cancel me for. And the one of the last ones I had was I was shitting on Billie Eilish and I was like, God, if I knew music was going to get this bad, I said something like, if I saw that Billie Eilish was going to be like the name in music in this era in 2020, I would go back in time and let Michael Jackson molest all the kids he needed to.
Oh, well, yeah, obviously.
Which is like,
I mean, that's a given.
Clearly I'm making a joke and saying that music today sucks. And
Right.
all of her fans on Twitter were like, this man is advocating for pedophilia.
It's so stupid. It's so dumb. Everyone takes everything so literally. Like
it's crazy.
Like when you do an exaggeration, that's a joke. Like if you exaggerate to that extent, it's like waving a red flag. Joke.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's like people take it seriously and it's just disappointing.
And yet not seriously enough, because like first for my kind of pedophilia to take place in that joke, you'd first have to believe that I have the capabilities to time travel. It's like I'm talking about going back in time.
Right.
And so that right off the bat should eliminate any idea that I'm being realistic entirely.
As a Back to the Future fan, I'm offended.
Yeah.
Because that's real time travel. I don't want you stepping on the time travel train because that's Doc. That's, it's McFly. That's time travel right there.
That's the legit. So when we're talking about movie laws of time travel, those are the ones you ascribe to.
I'm a nerd.
You can't interact with yourself or else you'll be erased, right? And definitely and no sports betting. Those are your time travel rules.
I don't think I'd have any rules. The only rule I think I would have would just be eliminate anyone born after 1992.
That's probably not a bad one. That people are always like, I'd go back and kill Hitler. I'm like, wouldn't it be funny if you went back and you were like, this guy actually has some pretty good points. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, I would much rather go back to 92 and just put something in the water that makes everybody sterile, and then we would be in great shape.
Yes, or just makes everyone like have a good personality. Like I feel like 2020 is the year the good personality died.
Yeah.
It's been leading up to it. there's definitely been like a lead in. I mean, believe me, like 2018, 2016, 2014, a lot of bad personalities. But we
Yeah.
have hit peak bad personality year, century, whatever. They're gone. It's like they're on the extinct list or
Well, you
endangered.
have, yeah, one of the things that I think you started doing after the last time you were on the podcast, this is back when it was still the implications. But back before you were on the show, I don't think you had done like the relationship coaching stuff back then, or maybe you were doing it, but not as a like an occupation, right?
Yeah, I was just doing my podcast with my co-host who does that
Yeah.
stuff, and so I'd never done it like for like in a professional sense. I would just chat about it on the pod, and then yeah, but probably about 2 years ago, I started kind of doing it more full time. I don't know, was it like 3 years ago when I did your podcast?
I don't remember. I don't think it was that long ago because it was definitely
Okay.
it was after like canceling, quote unquote.
Oh, it was
So
after your
so
canceling.
it was 2018 and it was like, yeah, it was right because you and Joe
That
came and did
well,
well,
that's
I
why I was invited because you were canceled. You couldn't get anyone else. Like I'm in.
No, that wasn't at all. I think I had you scheduled I think I had you
Nope.
scheduled minutes before the canceling took place.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I've always loved having you on the show or having you podcast and having you on the Darkest Hour stand-up show when we used to do stand-up. Remember stand-up?
Oh, stand up.
That was fun when it
Yep.
lasted. That was a
Yep. Now we're
fun 13 years of my life that we may never get back to.
honestly, it did us a favor.
Maybe.
Stand up is cruel. It's very
Um,
cruel.
but yeah, so you were in the same day, and by the way, you're of the two guests I had in the show that day, you're the one that still exists because the other guest is now a completely different person with a completely different identity.
Oh, yes. Yes. You
Yes,
mentioned
so
that.
yeah, so not to dead name, but now goes by Fifi Dosh, and so yeah, and what's kind of you want to know what's kind of spooky? I do want to have Fifi on. But what's kind of spooky is like we talked about that, like kind of joked about uh us both transitioning to help our career. I was like, we should just transition, Joe, and help our careers. And he was like, yeah, that would be the move. And then
It's
did.
like, no,
And I was,
seriously.
yeah. And then I was like, oh, I was like, this guy, it just proof that he's better at comedy than me, or now she,
He's
because
well committed.
she did the bit. And
Yes.
I am still over here like, would it be funny if we did? Yeah,
Well,
some people take action.
it kind of reminds me of a Seinfeld episode where Jerry and George both agree that they're going to get married, and
The
then
pact.
the
Yeah.
pact, and then George actually gets engaged. Jerry's like,
And
"Are you
Jerry fucks
fucking
him over.
crazy?"
Yeah.
Right. But that's the kind of thing you think is hyperbolic. Like you're
Yeah,
not.
we
I mean,
made a deal. This is we made a pact. We gotta
wait, you
yeah,
didn't cut off your wiener? I
yeah,
did. I could have
yeah.
swore
I thought
we shook the
I
wieners
was
on it.
yeah, we did. We touched dicks on it and then threw them away. No, but yeah, and it's funny because like you'll hear people talk about like how you have to like adjust when someone in your life transitions or someone transitions, and I'm not like super tight with now Fifi, but there is that weird thing of like, wow, the person that I've known for most of the time I've been in LA is no more. Like that person doesn't exist. Like, and it's like, yeah, it's kind of the same person, same memories, but just in trying to train yourself of the right pronouns and the right names and everything else, it's like and in this situation, it's like somebody that you know and respect as an artist and care about as a person and consider a friend. And so you're doing your best to kind of accommodate those new asks. But there still is this part of you that's like, in a way, I feel like when I talk about the person I used to know, that the person doesn't exist anymore. And there's this new individual that I feel like I'm in many ways getting to know. And I haven't even gotten to see Fifi, formerly Joe, since her transition. And so it's like it's not a thing I think like would be weird, but it's kind of strange to talk about like memories with the person they were when they're a new person now. It's like so I do get where like first of all, I totally understand how boneheads like me say the wrong shit, because it's just like it's like reflex when you're talking like, oh, my friend Kristen, or oh, my brother Craig. Like, you just are used to talking about somebody a certain way. It's very easy to fuck up and say the thing that hurts their feelings.
Yeah.
But it's not, that's never the intention.
You should play the song "Someone That I Used to Know" by Gautier. Now you're just somebody that I used to.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Well,
is that what that song is about?
yes, actually. Yes.
Oh, really?
Yes. Well, I guarantee Gautier, if you interviewed him, because it fits right now, he'd be like, yes, that's exactly what I meant. If you ever got canceled, he'd be like, no, I'm a good person. I was singing about transitioning.
Yeah, I wrote a trans song years ago. You guys just weren't on my level.
Right. But here's a couple points that I want to make about that. The changing in LA, that happens anyway. This is just more extreme version. You know, if someone moves to LA and you become friends with them and then like 5 years passes, you're like, wow, you're quite an asshole now. Or maybe like you're really nice now, which I doubt it changes to that. But you know, people change. And so this is just a maximum version of that. And then the other thing that's interesting is like it's such a commitment to your career to do something like that, but not a commitment to your gender. Like it's like interesting, like a duality. Like, I'm going to commit to the career, not so much to the other thing, but I'm committing to the career, which means I'm not going to commit to the ween.
Yeah. That's an interesting take on it. I mean,
I'm very
if you asked me to choose between having a very successful, which it's kind of unfair to say, because it's not like, I don't know anybody that's other than maybe Caitlyn Jenner, who was probably doing fine in the first place. I don't know that anybody's just cut off the ween and become famous immediately.
Lorena Bobbitt.
Very true. Very true. That was an outpatient procedure. That was a little different, little different scenario.
Yeah, no recovery time.
Did you watch that documentary on Netflix? Not to get all tangenty, but just could you imagine being one of the cops who's like dick hunting by the side of the road? Like, I think it's over here, boss.
Right. It's like, we're usually hunting for regular dicks like people. No, it's really gay. Or
there's just not funny. Yeah, I know. Yeah. They just wouldn't that be funny? You know how sometimes like police departments bring in a psychic? They're just bringing in gay dudes. Like, listen, some guy's dick got cut off and thrown over there. They're like they're holding Bobbitt's clothes to the gay guy's noses so they get the scent. They can run, go get it. And they let the leash loose and the gay guys run off and find the dick detached. Yeah. That's probably how they did it. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to spoil the documentary for anybody, but that is what happened.
That is what happened. And I'm glad that I didn't watch it, because that's I actually did. You know what? I'm glad that I didn't watch it, not because for any specific reason, except I turned it on and I made it like 5 minutes in and I was like, this is boring. There's something about the Lorena Bobbitt thing and the OJ Simpson thing. And like a couple, like remember the Menendez brothers? They killed their parents.
Yeah, Lyle and Elwood Menendez.
That's why they killed them. Those names. You can't name your kids those names and expect to be loved by them.
Yeah.
But those 90s cases, like stuff from the 90s, for whatever reason, like when I was probably like 12 or something, they just don't interest me. So I didn't watch it. I made about 5 minutes in and I just was gone. Just like the ween.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, and then I found out the guy did a porno. Ugh. They're like, what kind of sick people? Yeah, the old Bobs did a porno. And but
the penis got back on. So
they reattached him. They they absolutely they absolutely fixed. Yeah, he was good as gold. No, he was totally fucking jacked. And I mean, they interviewed people who like watched his porno and were like, yeah, dude, I don't think I've ever slept another day of my life good after I saw that thing. It was a monstrosity.
Did they enhance it, or was that what it was?
No, they enhanced it.
You think you're gonna get new boobs as a girl if you like, you gotta get a mastectomy, you get new boobs, you're gonna go bigger. I guess if you reattach a peen, I'd be like, can you just add maybe like an inch or two?
First of all, if we're attaching new dicks, I want someone else's. I don't want mine. Don't give me back mine after it's been all chewed up on the side of the road by the hound dog gays that hunted it. Yeah, I mean, like give me Bruce Jenner's. That was an Olympic cock. I'll take that one. Or,
Yeah. Does he still have that?
There's
Is it on the mantle?
It would be. I would have kept it. Wouldn't you have kept yours if you were Bruce?
I mean, obviously. I keep all my penises, but especially if I'm a great athlete.
Yeah, I mean, like that thing's got a gold medal. It's got the decathlon gold medal. It was on the cover of a Wheaties box. I would think you would tuck that back, pun intended, for a
But
rainy day.
yeah, but
Yeah,
here's what I don't ever hear in the conversation is what do they actually do physically? Like we hear that they transform, but I want to know the goods. Do they keep
I've
it? Do they tuck it? I have no
I've
idea.
heard, yeah, I've heard that they give it the old slice and dice. I've also heard that they like invert it. So like they just you ever take a pair of socks off and it rolls
Yes,
off inside
Goldman.
out?
Yeah.
That's how they make vaginas in the medical industry. They just go "Whoop," and
That's why
then
they smell. They're old socks.
yeah, exactly. So they sock it, they jam it up, and then they just keep pushing it up there, I guess. I don't know.
It reminds me of those, remember those toys that would fall through your hand? It was like a rubber thing and had like liquid in it or something, and you'd hold on to it.
Wasn't it like Nickelodeon Gloop or something like that?
No, I know what you're talking about. No, that's like
Oh,
actual like gooey stuff, I think. But this was like
yeah.
this was so perverse looking. I can't believe we were allowed to play with these things as a kid, but they were made out of rubber. It was like a rubbery thing, and you
Yeah.
hold it through your hands and it just keeps falling. So it looks like you're just like constantly jerking off a little piece of rubber in 6th
Yeah.
grade. It's very strange.
I mean, that was definitely 6th grade for me all the time. I was one of
7th,
those
9th,
extra
10th, 11th,
yeah, I was
12th.
one of those extra credit kids, you know. Get somebody said gack. Yeah, there was a Nickelodeon gack
Yak.
that was
You'd
like
put your
that.
hand in it. You'd go,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah.
By the way, what a great name. Well, I would love to be on the marketing team that's like, what should we call this? I don't know, gack. And
Yeah.
somebody's like, yes.
Well, again, I have a bad habit of referring to Seinfeld constantly, but Todd Gack, that remember that? Did you remember that character? It was a later season. He wasn't recurring, but that was such an annoying name. I'm pretty sure it was Gack. That's like just such a great annoying name, and the guy was annoying. So it's like Gack. It's just annoying. Everything about it. Should be
Yeah.
my name.
Kristen Gack. Well, someday maybe you'll marry Todd and then you'll be all set. You aren't far from where Seinfeld existed in the script, but you're definitely far from where it was filmed. You have to come back here to meet old Todd Gack.
I know I would. Yeah, but I never will. Never
That's
will go
one of
back there.
yeah. I don't blame you. I understand why. We don't have a lot going for us these days.
No, you don't.
And you know that's I just had a conversation with my auto mechanic about that today, where I was like, man, you know, taxes, homelessness, the constant rioting and outrage all the time. The fact that like you pay the highest taxes here of anywhere else in the country. And then when they shut the government down and tell you can't work, you go, cool, I guess we're going to get some unemployment. They go, yeah, about that. We don't have it. And you go, what the fuck are you talking about? You don't have it. Like you take everybody's all of their money and you don't have it. Where did it go? And they go, we don't know. And then they ride off in their fucking Maserati to a mansion. And you just go, that's interesting. So was that an essential part of the tax dollar that bought that fucking place?
Yeah. The thing with California too, or at least LA, well, I would say just most likely probably LA, is if it's not sunny out, it's so ugly. It's such an ugly city when it's not
That is true. It's very
not
depressing.
sunny. And I always felt like rent should go down on the non-sunny days. That's what you're paying for.
Yeah.
Really, when there's no sun in LA, what is the point of being there? Nothing. There's no point.
Yeah, I explained this when people used to ask me when I was doing Ginormous Food for the Food Network. They would be like, like, isn't the food scene in LA amazing? And I would go, no, it's the most overrated scene in the entire country when people talk about food. It's like they do two things well here: Thai and Korean food. Other than that, no, I don't even think Southern California has the best Mexican food. Mexico has better Mexican food than Southern California.
Before I moved to Southern California, all I knew was basically like white people Mexican food. So like
Tex-Mex.
Well, more like in a taco, you would have ground beef, you know, like a Taco Bell taco, like the ground beef. And then when I went to LA, I'm like, what? The carnitas and pico de gallo. I'm like, what is this? And then so for me, it ended up being amazing Mexican just because I didn't know any other Mexican. So I would have said it was good, but I don't have no other level of measurement except Taco Bell and my mom, which is not a Mexican person. So.
Well, that's nice. That's a fun thing.
It is.
Yeah, we were talking at the very beginning of this about not knowing how things go viral, and I had that thing go viral yesterday. But it is a strange. I guess one of the things that was kind of cool that came out of it was seeing the sort of overwhelming response of support of people sort of being like tired of, I guess, what you would refer to as like liberal virtue signaling. And
Yeah.
as a comic who deals with, like, you and I both have the issue, I wouldn't say an issue, but I think you and I, in terms of our day-to-day battles with anyone that's in our verticals, right? Comedy, podcasting, whatever, and the friends we've made just from being in that world for 10 to 15 years, it's amazing just how alienated they, or how quickly they'll rush to alienate people, you and I, just for asking questions and being like, does anybody else see this as a problem? And people are just like, you're a fucking Nazi. It's
Mm-hmm.
wild.
It's so wild. It's mind-blowingly wild. And it's not like just wild, it's disappointing. It's like, for me, comedy was like this savior. When I first realized, like, oh, I could do stand-up, I could be part of comedy, I thought those were going to be my people. They were people who just got it. They weren't idiots. They saw through bullshit. They weren't in cliques. And all of a sudden, and I mean, this was a long time ago. It's not like this was just recent, but 6 months in, it was like getting hit with the worst news ever. Santa's not real. Comics are the worst. And I, so like my whole world crumbled. And so for however many years, many years, I've just tried to accept and understand the idea that like comics are like ruthless group think monsters, some of them, not all of them, but a lot of them. And it ripped out my soul, because then I had to re-find who I am or where I belong or who my people are, because I thought it was going to be that, and it wasn't. It was a mirage. It was not real.
Do you feel like you're getting closer to that, or do you still feel like you're figuring that part out?
I think I'm getting closer. I've made more progress getting closer to it in the past 3 months, since like our country has kind of gone into complete chaos, than I have in 10 years. Because for a long time, I mean, I've never not had my opinions. I've just always been like, well, I'm not a political comic. I'm not going to even go there. It's not my thing.
Same for me, for sure.
Right. And so like for a while, it was like okay to kind of suppress my point of view or stuff that I thought was a little ridiculous. I would just kind of be like, all right, it's not, it's not my thing. I'm just going to be in the middle of the road here. And now that I don't live in LA anymore. I don't care. It's such a huge freedom to not care, to not give a shit. The subtle art of not giving a fuck, a book everyone should read. Not caring. So I don't care. So now that I don't care and I'm actually able to be myself and I'm not worried about who's unfriending me, who's unfollowing me, who's calling me this or that, I am now narrowing down the people that I actually like, and I'm attracting them and they're attracting me. And like, so I'm finding people more just by being authentic and not having anything to lose. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and for me, becoming a comedian was a big part of figuring that out. Right. Like, and I think you go through your evolution as a comic where you start out where you're like, I just want to make people laugh. You just want to do that. And then you're kind of like, as you go through that, phase 2 is sort of like, I want to make people laugh, but I also want them to like me and agree with me. Right. And then I think some people get very successful in stage 2. A lot of our friends that are our age, like between 30 and 45, if they're successful, they're generally successful for that reason, because they're funny. There's a competency level there, but mostly they're agreeable and people like them. Then level 3, which honestly, to me, the best comedians get to that level, is where you find a way to be yourself and 100% authentic to who you are. But then that is funny and that is likable. And so you're not really reaching to that as a destination. It's organically coming out of who you actually are.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, I think guys like Chappelle get to that level. Bill Burr gets to that level. But part of the problem is now we have an industry that's like, they'd almost rather keep you in second gear, because second gear still gives them all the power and control over you, because you're seeking acceptance. You want to be liked. And so the problem is like, you have almost this civil war in art and entertainment right now, where the people that are in phase 2, especially the ones that are having success, are going, no, you don't get to be yourself. I'm playing by the rules and I'm having success. You should be wanting to be like me. And people like you and I are like, fuck that. We don't want to do that. And so then they're immediately kind of pushing back because they're just not uh, they're not willing to risk losing what they're succeeding with at phase 2 to go to phase 3.
Right.
And I think also part of them have to justify like, well, there's really not anything better living that way than what I have right now. So why would I even want it? Like that must be something intrinsically wrong or evil or bad about that makes what I'm doing right, like righteous and virtuous. Does that make sense?
Kind of, yes. Like you're saying I might as well think this way because it's good.
Yeah, it's
And so
it's
what's
like a willful
beyond,
ignorance.
yeah, like why try to be actually myself if what I'm doing now is pure and virtuous? Is
Sure,
that kind of what you're getting at?
yeah, and having success, right? And so, um, and I think in a way, like they look at people, our peers in the business look at people like me. I won't throw you into this, but they look at people like me and go, "You had a fucking TV show and you ruined it because you just couldn't keep your mouth shut." And it's like, no, I got a TV show because I was a guy who didn't keep his mouth shut, and my contract ended, and I had trouble getting new jobs because I was a guy who didn't keep his mouth shut, but I never planned on shutting my mouth to be a television guy. They
Right.
offered me a show. I did it. I was a good soldier and did what I was asked to do. But I also, when asked to like tone it down on social media, or maybe like limit your stand-up gigs and limit your stand-up availability, I was like, unless you're gonna fucking pay me more money to do that or to
Right.
not do that, I'm not gonna do. Like, to me, that's selling out. It's like, you want me to just stop being the person you thought highly enough to give a show to,
Right.
because you just want to have control and you want a vessel for your ideas and your output, and you want me to have taken all the risk to build whatever brand I have, and then you want to exploit it, but you don't want to take on any of the risk that comes with that piece as well.
Right. I mean, and that's why it's like they're good business, like they're business people. They don't
Yeah.
think in that kind of authentic way that you're thinking. So it's like, it's what's just frustrating is like you play the game or you get out, or you don't play the game and you're just like someone who can surpass all the levels without anyone and anything and be at this next level, which I don't even really know who that is. Is that Bill Burr? Like who is that? I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of
Um,
tough because the tough part is, you know, you can point to people that have played the game that have gotten monumentally successful. You can, so Jim Gaffigan, the whole thing that happened with him last week um, was what led to my viral Twitter moment over the last couple days. And my response wasn't necessarily in response to his initial freak out, which I have no problem with, but it was sort of like his self-proclaimed martyrdom that
right.
happened afterwards, where he was like, I risked my career
Yeah,
and I
no, he
might
didn't. Right.
lose fans. And it's like, the fuck you did, Jim. Like,
Yeah.
I think what you're realizing is that the money you were making off of being safe, middle of the road from conservative America by touring and everything, if touring doesn't come back, then you better get better at acting really fucking quickly. And one way to get better at acting is to make sure you're on the right side of history, so to speak. And so to me, it's like, it was so calculated for you to be like, now I'm going to be vocal about Trump. And he even said it in his comments when people are like, you're going to lose fans. He's like, well, if we reelect Trump, the economy's over as we know it, and stand-up's not coming back. It's like, I looked at that comment and said,
It's
this is exactly why you're doing this, because you don't think comedy's coming back. And so you're trying to pivot and make Hollywood love you.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I'm such a naive person where I don't look at things as planned or agenda. Like I don't naturally think, "Oh, this person's doing this for this reason." When I see stuff like that, because I am emotional sometimes. So I did see his outburst as more of a, "All right, I've been quiet and now just F it and I'm letting it out." But in that in that sphere of like F it, I'm letting it out was no risk. Like I didn't see any risk involved. If
No.
again, I agree with you. It's like you said, you get in deeper with the tastemakers, like the people, like you're just deeper in the circle, you're deeper connected, you're more praised by your peers, and so that only helps because they make the TV shows, they make the business deals, And so I didn't think, in my opinion, like looking at it, I didn't think it was a pre-planned thing. Like this is a career move. I can see it. I can see it becoming one, after he kind of did it, but it could also
Yeah.
be pre-planned, and I'm just naive and I don't think in that way, which is exactly why I'm not great at business, because I don't think like that.
Well, I don't know that it was like premeditated or calculated like that, but I do think that there's a very good chance that it sort of comes out organically because you subconsciously know those things, right? So like I
Yeah.
don't think it was like premeditated that he was like, I'm going to pivot to acting, and part of doing that is saying this, but but it also, like, the opposite wasn't a deterrent, if that makes sense. So like
Yeah.
you're sort of allowed to act impulsively in that space because it's going to be relatively consequence free, and ultimately the benefit is going to be a lot more people are going to like you, and it's probably going to open some doors for your career more than it's going to close them.
But
And
just
even if go ahead.
I was just gonna say, if he did the total opposite and declared like BLM as a Marxist organization and was like
Which it
condemning,
is.
exactly, and if he condemned the rioting and stuff, that's when his career would be over, which is, I know, is exactly what you're saying. But then he could still make a career on his own, in the sense of like all the money you'd get from, I don't know, like Patreon or however you support yourself independently once you're canceled. And obviously
Yeah.
it wouldn't be the same career, and he would never do that in a million years. But I do think the like people would have, his conservative fans would have been on board enough to be like, yeah, well, we're with you, Jim. Like, we're one of yours. So either way, basically, is what I'm saying. What I'm saying is he would have been somewhat fine. Obviously, not as fine if he leaned right by any means in the industry.
Right.
He would be a lone shark. He would be on his own, and he would have declared himself free from whatever groupthink. But either way, I do think he would have come out okay. So like, nothing's risky when you have millions of dollars, is basically what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's the funny thing too, is like, he's like, I got death threats. It's like, dude, I've had people take pictures from outside my apartment building. Like,
Yeah, fair.
somebody telling you to look over your shoulder on a direct message on Instagram is not the same of somebody sending you a picture of them in front of your apartment building.
Yeah.
So
Well,
like,
he's been likable for so long, he has no idea. It's like shocking
yeah.
to him.
And also you have the money to hire a security guard. So fuck off. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Like, so that, the vitriol that he got from his side is like going to be completely overshadowed by the praise he got. And sure enough, it's like you're seeing in the thread of his initial rage was like Patton Oswalt, Sarah Silverman, like every A-list comedian, every A-list actor and celebrity just applauding him. And
it's a circle jerk. All
it
it is
is
a circle jerk. They're jerking each other off with the exact same thoughts over and over and over, and congratulating each other for having literally not one original take on anything. And it's just so sad, because comedians are supposed to be the edgy ones. They're supposed to be saying things that they don't all have to agree with a right side at all to be edgy. But just, I mean, Jesus Christ, can you be like one hair not predictable, just like one little like pubic hair off
yeah.
of Bobbitt's, whatever the guy's penis thing
Old
we call
John
back.
Wayne. Yeah.
Yes, but it's
Um,
just the
yeah, the biggest thing is like, my biggest takeaway, and I explained this in on an interview I gave for some press that came out today about the whole Twitter thing, was I explained, he goes, well, why do you think this is Christian Toto. He does sort of like an entertainment industry news site from a conservative perspective. And he was asking me, like, why do you think, because conservatives generally seem to be a little bit more live and let live than the left.
yeah.
But he's like, why do you think people reacted to that so strongly? And I go, well, because like Jim sort of made it sound like these are things he's thought for a long time, and now he just has the guts to say them. But everybody knows that, like, you are a conservative Catholic with 5 kids who is actually very pro-life. Like, in terms of your views and what you believe, you are very pro-life. And when Stephen Colbert had you on the Late Show and asked you to talk about that because you're both Catholics and you were opening for the Pope, you were like, man, I don't really want to be divisive. I don't want to be political or whatever. Whereas you actually, as a very respected entertainer, could have opened the door to a pro-life conversation
Yeah,
that would have had a lot of credibility, because he would have been able to he would have absolutely been able to be like, you can't really, you couldn't have called him.
Reach them. He can
Yes.
reach people that, like, the
Yes.
problem is that no one on the left at all indulges themselves in anything other than their bubble of thought. So they can't access new thoughts and ideas because they're not even like, if you follow 200 people on Twitter and 199 of them are exactly like you're never going to see a new perspective to anything. So there's going to be zero chance of ever coming to an agreement on anything because no one's seeing anyone else's side, because they're just following. And I would say this more so of the left. They're just following people on the left. I see way more people on the right following people on the left than people on the left following people on the right, if that makes sense. So nothing's going to enter their sphere because they're not following the right accounts. They're not looking for that stuff.
Certainly.
And so Jim Gaffigan could reach those people if he wanted to, but he doesn't want to. It doesn't help him.
Well, I would argue he probably could have brought a rational, well-made argument to the table about that issue. Like, I think a lot of the times when people talk about being pro-life versus pro-choice, it gets painted as like men want to control women's bodies. Men don't want responsibility for their children. There's a lot of negativity around it. And this was how comedian Adam Yenzer, who is a writer for Ellen. People don't fucking research any of this stuff. They're like, oh, she's a liberal, crazy. She has conservative writers on her staff for many years. She actually is one of the more intellectually diverse writers' rooms out there. So while 1 million people in the world shit on Ellen who don't know who the fuck she is at all, and the fact that she actually has a pretty progressive approach to how her team is put together, they just run with rumors that she was yelled at a PA one time. It's like, get the fuck out of here. But Adam had a conversation with me on this podcast back when it was The Implications about pro-life versus pro-choice, and kind of convinced me and was like, listen, what is the purpose of law? And this was kind of where I arrived at. It was like, what are the purpose of the laws that we have as a society? Do we have laws to try to encourage people to behave their best? Or do we have laws based on the fact that we ultimately know we can't control people? Because if we made laws for that reason, we wouldn't have speed limits. Murder would be coincidental, right? So like, well, it's only murder if we got to know what happens before we call it murder, which unfortunately is kind of how we do it anyway now. But I think before we get into like pro-life, pro-choice, it's like, what is the purpose of law? We have speed limits because there's a good portion of people that are going to look at that and go, well, that's for my own safety, so maybe I should slow down. Maybe I should follow that law or that rule. And if it weren't posted, that person would drive whatever the fuck speed felt comfortable. And so when you question, would making it illegal potentially not necessarily force, but encourage people to make better decisions and be more responsible on the front end, I think that at least merits a discussion, because the other side is saying, we don't even think it's a problem if you're pulling it out of her at 9 months. If she doesn't want it, we bash it on the fucking head and throw it in the trash.
Yeah.
And so like that extreme is fucking insane to me.
Yeah.
And I would much rather us have a conversation about maybe we should look at restricting it or limiting it or doing something that makes it a much bigger decision for somebody to avoid having to make, if that makes sense. Because ultimately that's what we want. I don't want women's bodies to be regulated. I want people to make healthy decisions that don't involve destroying the life of somebody else. And there's a lot of people like Joe DeRosa who just got into a big thing on his podcast with Corinne Fisher about, well, if we were as pro abortion back when he was a baby as we are now, his mother might not have opted for the choice to put him up for adoption, and he wouldn't fucking be here.
Oh,
and
he's adopted.
Yes, and I think those people deserve to have a seat at the table for that conversation to say, listen, at least when a kid is put up for adoption, he has a fucking chance to make something of himself. You know how many success stories have come out of abortions? Zero. I'm not a fucking scientist, but I would bet all my money on the fact that nobody that's been aborted has gone on to become Elon Musk. So I understand that perspective, and it's like, yeah, if you gave me the choice, I would go, yeah, give me a shot. I don't care if I have to go through the system. I don't care if I get molested by foster parents. If death is the alternative, I'll take a shot at being molested and figuring my life out. Yes.
Right. I'm a little morose and a little, I'm like, I wouldn't have mind been aborted. I'd have been fine with it. I always yell at my mom on my birthday.
Could have
I'm
avoided
like,
a lot of stress.
yeah, I'm like, this is your fault. You know that? Like I should punish my mother every single birthday that I have that she's around.
This is your fault.
You're gonna eat the shitty cake that I made. It's disgusting. I use salt instead of sugar. That's what you get.
Yeah, that's you should have consulted me before making me come into this world.
Seriously.
But I think,
yeah, I understand everything that you're saying. Of course, it all makes logical sense.
And so a lot of it is like, it's not even like I'm not married to any of it. But I do think that we should start looking at we should be willing to have conversations around ideas. And that's not the America we live in today. It's everyone's like, you saw it in some of the comments of the thread where people are like, I was with you up until the women aborting babies for their own convenience comment. That's insane. It's like, okay, so we're going to play this game where we pretend that that's never happened, that no teenage girl has ever just said, I have to get up off the bed to get the condom. So fuck it. Just blast in me. That's never happened in life. Come on, man. Like if you don't believe that really happens,
it just happened to me last weekend.
Yeah, there you go. Fortunately, we're of the age where it's less of a concern anymore.
I know. I'm like, God damn it, I'll never get to have an abortion.
Yeah, well, it's a punch card. You get 9 of them. They give you a Food Network show or an HBO special.
I was hoping for a free sub. The Food Network show is too much commitment. I can't handle that.
It's a lot of free subs, but at the end of it, it destroys your entire body. But it was a little reassuring, and that's one of the things I think I texted you when I was like, we should pod, was that I hope it at least gives someone like you a little bit of like hope and a little optimism to be like, okay, at least there are these large groups of people out there that also agree that this way of living is fucking crazy.
Yeah, it's just it's like the battle of finding those people and then what do you do with those people once they've found you? Like, how do you harness it? When you have no support from anyone doing what you're doing, it's like you're on an island, and I'm not resourceful. So if I'm on an island, if I'm Tom Hanks in Castaway, I'm dead within the first 7 days. That's how I feel. That's how I feel like with comedy and stuff. Like, I'm on an island by myself. I don't know how to do this,
Yeah.
And so I'm just doing what I do. I'm just me. I luckily have let go of, like I kind of said a little while ago, like the giving of fucks. Like, I don't have any to give anymore, which is super freeing. And I feel like then now I can go forth and just be and do whatever is actually what I'm supposed to do. And so I don't really know what that is. I just know that now I feel free, and I don't feel like if I don't do this, then I am not worthy of happiness or life or any of those things. I'm just like, I don't care. I'm just going to follow the wind right now. And it feels good to just follow the wind for the first time rather than feeling like, oh, I must be this and I must be that. It's very freeing.
Well, and I think that becomes the thing that magnetizes people to you, is like, I think that is ultimately, we can paint it a lot of different ways of what people aspire to be in their lives, whether it's rich, successful, famous, or whatever. But ultimately, people want to be accepted. They want to be accepted for who they actually are, living, their true self of who they want to be. I think a lot of things pervert what we think that needs to be for ourselves. That fucks us up a lot. So I think that's why we live in a time now where the crisis of identity is so it's so prevalent in everyone's outward facing persona. Like, I need to look cool, I need to be this, I need to look successful, I need to care, I need to present myself a certain way. And for some people that goes all the way down to like, maybe I'm not even the gender I'm supposed to be, maybe I'm not the race I'm supposed to be, Sean King. So like, I think I understand those things, but I kind of go back to like the old school mentality of like, the answer is not reinventing yourself right down to your core every fucking day. The answer is learning to love and accept who you are, like whether you like that person every day or not, and figuring out how to live as that person.
Yeah, I feel bad. I really genuinely feel bad for people who are sacrificing their souls to try to just continue to fit in or to just cling to the possibility of something. Like there's a comic who unfollowed me recently on Twitter who is such a fucking like
Name
I
names.
want to, but I can't because I want to be able to sleep without having an anxiety attack that like all of a sudden we're going to get into some like war. But
Yeah,
he's never going to be a big comic. He's never going to be huge. He's a fucking tool of epic proportions. He's a bad person. He's not a good person, and it's a bummer because I actually like kind of felt like, oh, we kind of hit it off. I don't hit it off with a lot of comics, and I was like, oh, okay,
sure.
cool. But it's like so clear that he is just doing whatever he can to cling to this idea of possibly one day making it. It's like, dude, you're like in your early 40s. Stop. Like you're embarrassing yourself. So you're
Yeah,
gonna take on everyone else's uh group think and bullshit so that you can try to maybe have like an inkling of a career. And it's just sad to me. It's like your entire life, really, this is what you're going to do with it. And
yeah,
then having to distance himself from me because I've said a couple reasonable things. It's so embarrassing. It's like, be a fucking man. Like,
yeah,
grow a pair. It's unreal, the like childness high school mentality that these grown men who have lots of hair on their backs have. It's like, no, you have the body of an old man. You cannot be acting like a 12-year-old boy trying to make friends.
yeah.
And it's just disgusting to me. So
I shave my back hair so as to be
I do
just to
too.
do you? Good. See, that's
Yes.
we have so much in common.
You go
Um,
through razors fast, right?
I use a clippers. I shear myself like a sheep.
Ooh,
I need help sometimes because there are
yeah.
spots I can't get in my old
Yeah.
age.
There's actually a thing. Don't ask me how I know this, but there's this like back shaver thing
I've
because
seen it in like
you
Target.
well, you kind of, I guess it almost looks like a sword or something, or like you
Yes,
just run it down the side, you scale it down, and it's super easy to get everything. It gets all the thick stuff. I mean, again, I don't shave my back. So
do
I'm
they
not
have
doing
one
it.
that shaves off the fat? Because I will buy that in a heartbeat.
That's called a machete.
Oh, there we
Yeah,
go. I'll
just
just do you guys have one that shaves off? It's so funny. I can't remember. Oh yeah, Kate Quigley posted the other day. She goes, "Yeah, they have this new filter in LA for people that live in LA that makes people like them, and it just gives
her
everyone fake
boobs.
tits."
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
I
and I
saw
was
that.
just
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, they'll go really nice with my real tits."
Yeah.
But I mean, you started to talk a little bit earlier about like dating and guys and people having shitty personalities, and this weird thing about just now you were saying the weird thing about how people like just overextend trying to present themselves as something like. Do you feel that is really what's preventing people from connecting or finding the right person? Is that they're just presenting this outward facing version of themselves that's nowhere rooted in reality?
Um, I don't know if that's like a super like huge epidemic or anything, but I do think there probably are a decent amount of people that are doing that, but they don't know they're doing that. Like
Right.
I see a lot of guys on dating apps who they're like, I don't know, like Mr. Brooklyn, like super cool and it's like got the right glasses and just like super hip. And it's like, is that really who you are? Maybe it is. Maybe it's not, but they think it is. And so I do think because of the internet and our fucking Instagram and all of this bullshit, we do feel like we have to be something. Like we've got to, and it's definitely, been like this for well before the internet. Like everyone's just got to fit into a group. We want to be identifiable. Like it's like the guys who drive cars with like racks, for their snowboards. It's like we got to be part of something. And so I
Mhm.
do think, that probably happens naturally. I avoid those people. I avoid them like the plague, and I don't do it on purpose. I do it like naturally. I avoid anyone that feels inauthentic or disingenuous. I just take like a sharp left turn. And
Mhm.
I don't even care if there's a fucking cliff right there and I fall off of it. That's how badly I want to get away from inauthentic people. So I'm not really seeing them in a more personal sense. I'm just kind of seeing them on like a dating app or on Instagram or something and just like swiping away, like thinking like what a tool they are.
Do you think that do you think that like the people who get targeted with sort of these Me Too takedowns, and I won't use cancel culture in general because that's a very wide net, right?
Yeah.
Like people get canceled for
Like the
jokes
one
and
I
people
caught
get
you
canceled for
in.
their, yeah.
No, just kidding.
Yeah, it would have to be a wide fucking net. You better believe it. But yeah, but particularly with like the Me Too things with people like Callan or Dalia, like one of the things that people have said to me that makes sense is like part of the reason why they think that like there would be people go, why would someone want to make that kind of shit up and take those people down? I said, I really think some of it is like they either believe those people are being disingenuous or in some way or being fake. And in some regards, like with Callan, I almost felt like, dude, you threw your friend under the bus with accusations and then they came at you with the same fucking kind of accusations. Like,
Yeah.
what did you think was going to happen? So do you think some of that is like people sort of reacting in an aggressive way to that lack of authenticity where they feel like if people are full of shit that they're more likely to want to take them down or hurt them in some way?
No, because I think the people who are full of shit want to take down the authentic people.
Okay, that's a different take.
That's what I'm seeing. I mean, I actually don't know much about the Callan stuff. I know more about the Dalia. I don't really even know their relationship. I just knew all of a sudden Brian Callan was involved, and then I tried to Google it and then was lazy and fell asleep. So I don't know exactly. And not that I think like Chris D'Elia is authentic, but you know, he's not the right, like, you know, it's like you have to protect yourself doing the right thing. So if Brian Callen was constantly like shitting on Trump, if like all these guys who were taken down were constantly shitting on Trump, I don't think they would have been as targeted.
Yeah,
Um,
probably.
and it's like
Probably.
a protection mechanism. A friend and I were actually talking about this recently. It's like Jim Carrey, he's a fucking tool bag. He had like an ex-girlfriend of his like killed herself, and I don't have something to do with him, but he was like mentally or verbally abusive to
It
her.
didn't have nothing to do with him. She lived with him for like 10 years. It had something to do with him.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I don't know the story exactly, but I just know that like happened in general.
Yeah.
And I guess he constantly tweets about how, you know, how much he hates Trump. And it's almost like it's like a shield. It's like if I am super loud about how much I hate everyone, the guy that we're supposed to hate, then it
Yeah.
will deflect away from me. No one will want to come after me. I'm protected. It's like an invisible shield. And it's like so for me, I always think the
Well,
people who are loudest.
you just described how Bill Cosby and people always go, I don't know how Bill Cosby and Harvey Weinstein, got so far and were able to operate like that for so long. It's like, yeah, they had the right shields. Your point exactly. Like Harvey Weinstein is on stage at the fucking DNC every year until he got, nailed to the cross. So yeah, that's how. That's
Right.
totally how did Epstein do all this for 30 years? It's like, yeah, because he has the right fucking associations, like he's got the right cover.
Right. And so whenever I see someone too buried in the right stuff with the right opinions and the right point of view, I get very suspicious. To me, it screams, I'm hiding something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like evident where some of these like this one Black Lives Matter protester guy, you know what I mean? There's gonna be like wackos and everything, but like this one guy, I saw a news story. He was a child molester, and then one of the guys who was like working higher up in Black Lives Matter was arrested for child pornography or something like that. And a lot of so it's a lot of the we have something to hide, so we're gonna overcompensate and make ourselves look like really good people
Yeah.
because then we're protected. No one's going to see through how bad we are. Like the comic who unfollowed me on Twitter, he cheats on every fucking girlfriend he's ever had. He's told me that. And but yet he's out just like screaming about like women's rights. It's like you are such an epic piece of shit for being so hypocritical. And
Yeah.
so it's like he's trying to hide how bad he is to women by screaming, be great to women. And so, yeah, I always just think that the louder someone is about social justice, the more they have to hide. So like someone like Chris D'Elia, I know I never followed much of him too much, but like I do remember occasionally seeing tweets of his that were like kind of shitting on the right or just certain things, but not being extreme by any means. It wasn't like he was
Yeah.
committed to being like super vocal.
Yeah, I never felt like he was virtue signally at
No, I
all.
didn't either. So I didn't
I
really
definitely
think
feel like
he had anything to hide, but
I definitely felt like he was a dick from time to time. Like he was
oh,
definitely a guy who comes off as a dick, who comes off as insecure, who like will I always tell people the story all the time, like and they fucking roll, some people roll their eyes about this, but it was a very real thing. So like when I first started dating my girlfriend in like 2000 whatever, many years ago, uh sh- uh she met me through comedy, and she had known a bunch of comedians. She had like gone out with Sebastian Maniscalco at one point, had like met a lot of comics, was in that space, right? And at the time, it was like Thanksgiving time while we were together, and uh, one of her friends was like, "Hey, a bunch of us are going out to LA. We want to go to comedy. You know all the comics. Can you hook us up with some tickets or something?" So she reached out to Dalia because he was headlining the Laugh Factory, and um he uh he got back to her immediately and was like, yeah, I can't get tickets for your friends, but like when are you and I going to hang out? And she was like, no, well, that's like, I'm not in town, I'm out of town for Thanksgiving, and by the way, like I have a boyfriend and I'm not interested. But and then she was like, but she's like, yeah, I like your comedy and I like you, you know, I want to see you do well in your career and congratulations on your success. And he was like, she was like, you know, we can absolutely be friends. And he was like, why would I want to be fucking friends with a chick who wouldn't fuck me?
right.
Like just straight out with it, which listen, I respect the game, right? But it's not a real good business decision to handle people like that when you have a job which is facing the public and a lot of your fans are women that might want to fuck you.
Yeah.
To hear that you handle people like that, right? So no issue with that. And I don't have a problem with it either, because like when I was in my 20s, I probably said some shit like that to a girl at one point too, right? So anyway, we fast forward many years forward. Every time I'm seeing him at the store and her and I were together, he would like glare at me and her sort of in this mentality of like, what the fuck are you doing, this fat piece of shit, which is totally the appropriate response that we should have been met
Absolutely.
with.
That's what I was gonna say.
100%, 100%. But then it would bleed into like he would try to bump me off lineups. Like I was headlining a show, and this was like a bringer back in the day. I was headlining a main room show at the store, had like sold like 20 something tickets to friends and stuff to come out and see me run a bunch of new stuff, bunch of new material. And he was prepping for the Bieber roast, and literally like 5 minutes into what was supposed to be a 30-minute set of mine, tried to bump me off the main stage at the store. And I just didn't fucking come off because I was like, I know who it is. I know why he's doing it, and I'm not coming off. Like the show's not over, dude. Like you can go up and do an hour after me and they will let you because you're a regular here. You're fine. And then, so I came off stage and my friends who had come to see me, we were out at the front bar and they were like, what was all that about? Where like the booker was like waving at you and like trying to wrap you up early or something. What was that? And I go, well, you saw who was standing next to her. And they go, yeah, like Crystalia, he went up after you. And I go, yeah. And they were like, yeah, he was prepping for the roast. That's cool. And I explained to them the backstory. I go, I don't know what this dude's deal is, but like ever since my girlfriend kind of shot him down, he's always had this fucking hard on for me every time I've been in the club. And I don't know what it is. And they go, dude, that's all in your head. Like he doesn't even fucking know you. He doesn't care, whatever. And I go, okay, that may be true. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just being overreactionary to it or whatever. I don't know. But then literally like clockwork, he comes walking around the front by the front bar, literally glares over at me, my girlfriend, and all of our friends with this fuck you attitude on his face and like scoffs and then keeps walking. And my friends go, okay, that's real. They're just like, that's a real, like, we didn't believe what you said, but that's real. And I go, yeah. And it's like, listen, I also don't care. Like, we're not two dudes that are meant to be friends. We're not two dudes that are, that's fine. I've got to be friends with everybody. It doesn't like, I'm not going to kill myself because everyone at the store doesn't love me. My friends are whoever has organically become my friends over the years. I have friends I don't talk to anymore because we don't really see eye to eye. We don't have anything in common, and that's fine. But there are those people that like, they have this mentality of, if everyone doesn't like me, something is wrong. And then the efforts that they'll go to try to influence that or push that a certain way is kind of crazy.
It's kind of pathetic. I actually have a Crystalia story, and I don't have any real interaction with him. And
sorry, before you jump into it, all that being said, I don't think he deserves to have his fucking career ended for a bunch of bullshit accusations that have no criminal charges behind them either.
No, I know.
So
I know. I know. Believe me, I'm in that camp.
yeah,
But when I was reading the accusations, I was like, oh, I mean, normally I'm like, we should do the trial thing or whatever, which I still think they should do. And
yes,
he should not have his career ruined. But I did see him be a massive asshole once, and I was like, yeah, this guy's a fucking dick. And so any accusation I saw, I was like, yep, yep. So I was like, I was never really at the Comedy Store. Much, but I had a set there one night or something, and I was just hanging out at the bar outside, which I really rarely ever did. And all of a sudden, it was like out of the blue, this just like raging Crystalia came like blowing out of the door from the showroom. And this girl was saying, like, no, I just don't think you're funny. And he was like, fuck you, fuck you. I make so much fucking money. And he
oh
was like
god,
literally being held back by a bunch of people. And he's like, I was so like, I'm like, wow, this guy is a legitimate toolbox. He was like, you should see the fucking car I drive because I'm fucking amazing. Fuck you. I make so much. And so, they held him back, and she was like, get out of my face, you're not funny, get over it, you're a loser. And he's like, I fucking, he just was like spitting.
he's like one of those, I could buy and sell you
Yes,
3 times over. Like,
yes, I was like, what
Jesus,
is this, the cheesiest movie ever they're taping right now? It was
yeah,
so lame. And then that was it. That was really like my only like interaction with him ever, and it wasn't even with me. I just remember being like, what the fuck, this guy's a fucking maniac. So I just think people with that mentality have a chance to make it in Hollywood because they're
yeah.
fucking ruthless. They're arrogant. They
There's
are
the
aggressive.
delusion. The delusion also helps too. Like
Yeah.
the one thing that I've always disconnected with, and I think you and I have talked about this before, but I said I think one of the things that holds me back in this business is I don't have this like delusional sense of self of being chosen. Like
Yes.
I
Same.
feel very appreciative for the opportunities I've had, and I try to do my best with them. But I don't like I would never be the kind of person that would be like, the universe put this here for me for a reason, bro.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I've never had that chosen person mentality. If anything, I've had a chip on my shoulder the other way where I'm like, I am gonna have to work 10 times fucking harder to get this stuff than somebody else because I'm just not gonna it's not gonna be easy for me. Like nothing in my life has ever been easy. So just don't expect that. But we meet people in the business that are just like, they'll get one break, and before the check's even written, they're like, everything is coming together for me. It's because I'm chosen. This is my destiny. This is my, like, the universe is like,
Yeah.
God has put this in my place. And it's like, I feel like that unwavering belief in self is very
Bizarre.
helpful. Well, it
It's
also
super
motivates.
helpful.
Yeah, if you felt you were absolutely chosen and success was your destiny, you would have no self-doubt whatsoever when you wake up every day. That's incredibly powerful. I can't trick myself into believing in myself that much.
No, me neither. And it's amazing to me that someone with that much self worth can be funny. Like that can write a
Yeah.
joke. Like how are you so unself-aware but yet world aware and able to write a joke? It just doesn't make any sense to me because in my mind, you have to be self-deprecating, you have to be neurotic, you have to be constantly like mentally in anguish to be funny. And
Yeah,
and so
and
there's so many people who aren't.
introspective. Yeah,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
gotta be interested. Like you gotta be willing to look at what's wrong with you to find the funny in it. And that doesn't necessarily coincide with somebody who thinks they're chosen by God to be a celebrity.
Right. And those people I see constantly being, you know, given spots on late night shows and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, what?
Yeah.
And then it makes me question like just humanity in general. Cause it's like, how does anyone or how do people not see through this? Like this
Yeah.
person is clearly formulaic, trying so hard, so disingenuous, and like they're winning. And so that, I'm like, who are the people allowing these people to win? It's just like we're like doomed. I'm very cynical. I'm like super duper cynical, and I have to
I
work on
know.
it.
I know. In all of our text exchanges, I feel like I'm talking you off the ledge.
Yeah, yeah. It's like a chosen thing almost now though at this point because it's like, who am I if I'm not cynical? Like I'd have to redefine myself. I'd have to get all
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
you know.
cynicism is not a bad thing. I mean, cynicism, uh cynicism is literally the same as optimism, just on the other side of the discussion. Like, there's a thing with being foolishly optimistic, and there's a thing with being excessively cynical, right? So like you could be, to me it's like, where it becomes problematic is like when you are cynical in the face of victory. Like if something overwhelmingly positive were to happen to you, it's one thing to like ruin it being cynical. It's another to be like, I'm going to enjoy this, but also I'm waiting for the next ass kicking that's coming right behind it. Like, some of that is how we have to cope through life. And I, by that definition, I'm absolutely cynical, because I'll be like, this is great. When is it fucking destroyed? Like, I felt that way when my show happened, where I was like, this is cool. Count down to when this gets fucking yanked away or goes south or doesn't work. And, and so like you have to, it's so interesting, because it's like, it's one thing to like relish in your failures. It's another to acknowledge that they're going to happen. Like, it's going to come. Everything you do is going to come to an end at some point. Every success is going to be followed by a failure. Like, the journey of life is a nonstop roller coaster of highs and lows. And you're either going to accept that and keep riding, or you're going to crumble when you hit one of those things that you can't deal with, and you can't, you can't move past. And it's funny, a lot of times people are very quick to easily acknowledge when people hit bottom and can't move past it, and, choose to take their own life or quit whatever they're doing, like maybe quit their passion. But there's equally as many people that can't deal with fucking success and winning either. And, we talk about those people far less than the people who like hit bottom and have a hard time and can't move past it, versus the people who hit success and have such a fucking ego that they can't move past that either and come back to earth.
Yeah. I remember hearing John Travolta when I was really young. I think he was on Oprah when he said this. And it was really humanizing. And I've always thought he seemed like a nice guy. And obviously, with like the Adele Dazeem stuff, he's like kind of like a train wreck now. And the poor guy lost his wife. But when I was younger, he said something like he every time
we
would
call
start,
that shaving your beard, by the way.
What? When his wife
I wouldn't say he lost his
when his
wife
wife-
so much as he just shaved his
Oh my
beard.
God.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And he
Yeah,
had
we
to
all
use,
have to shave the beard at one point or another in our lives.
and he had to use the machete because that was a thick beard.
That's a thick beard with a lot of years of history. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's terrible, but amazing.
The autopsy probably showed a lot of other dudes come as the cause of death.
I think yours was probably one of them, or the one that did her in.
Yeah, no, mine's
yeah.
Good luck finding any of mine. I think it all evaporated 16 years ago.
Yeah, it's evaporated milk.
Yeah.
He said on Oprah's show or on her couch, he was like, every single time I start to get like cocky or happy with myself, it all goes wrong and everything crumbles. And he's like, so I've just learned to just never be that excited about things. And I kind of really held on to that for some reason. I've always been afraid if something goes well, if I'm happy about it, then I will just get fucked. Like, you cannot be happy about this because it's almost like walking around with a kick me sign on your back. Like, everything's going great and you have no idea that you're actually a moron and someone's about to kick the shit out of you, and you just look naive and unaware. And so if anything ever goes well, which it rarely does for me, everything's like just pretty much like whatever. But when it does go somewhat well, I like tense up. Like, I'm like, this is unnatural. This means I'm about to get hit by a bus. Like, I guarantee you, the day before my wedding day, like, oh, I'm finally getting married, I will get hit by a bus. Nothing's gonna ever come together for me. I just have accepted it.
That's, what, it's funny you say that, because when you said that, it reminded me of that movie City of Angels with Nicolas Cage and Meg Ryan.
I loved that when I was
which
younger.
Is one of my all-time favorite like romance movies. Yeah, that too. However, I was like, I almost think I like it because it's like fucking catastrophic. Yeah. And it's sort of like, to me, I think seeing that, I don't know how old I was when that came out. I was probably like 10 or maybe like 13 or something.
It was a long time ago.
But I remember thinking like, dude, this can fucking destroy like love for you if you don't know that can happen at any point. Like, you have to realize, and to me, so I walked away like loving that movie because I was like, you thought you did everything right, and then like how ironic too for you to like give up your immortality as an angel, come to life, and then she fucking dies.
I forgot about
Just
that.
like,
That was
dude,
cruel. Yeah.
spoiler alert, by the way, for anyone who's not fucking 40 and doesn't see movies. But yeah, like I was like, oh my God, it was like an episode of Twilight Zone or something where it was like it was mind blowing. And to see that, I was like, oh, that was the first time I'd ever seen somebody's fucking hopes and dreams demolished on screen in any way. This is before reality television, mind you.
Right.
You get to see people's hopes and dreams demolished all the time now. But back then it was like this guy made the hardest choice he could ever make, gave up immortality, fell to earth to be with this woman. And the only thing that would be more fitting is if she was like, I found another angel, a blacker, bigger dicked angel that I'd rather be with than you.
Well, she probably got that when she died.
Yes, that's so when she went to heaven. That
it's
was
like
what
terrorists. They're dying
Yeah.
because they want the virgins, the 30 virgins or whatever. Women, we die. We get one large black penis.
Exactly. It's got wings. It's, you know, little angel wings.
Yeah, it follows you around.
It plays. It's got its own harp. It plays its own harp, which is very weird to see.
Yeah, yeah, should be. Yeah,
it looks like a whale trying to climb a fence. You know, you're picturing it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think just like being able to handle disappointment, and but that's one of the biggest problems with like young people today is that they just have not been braced for the disappointment that is life.
Yeah, they should watch City of Angels. That should be required watching in high school or elementary school.
Yes,
it will prepare you for disappointment.
It will definitely set people up on the right
cynicism train.
Yeah, exactly. I'm reading some comments right now. But yeah, so the ultimate, I think the ultimate test for people about seeing if they're like rooted in reality or grounded is just how they handle the highs and lows. If they fall in love with the highs too much, probably not going to be somebody you're going to enjoy being around. And if they get too far into the lows, I think we can all relate to that a little bit. But at some point, you got to pull yourself out of it and fucking figure things out.
Yeah, you do. And I'm kind of like, adult enough now where I pull myself up by the bootstraps or whatever.
Yeah.
When I have to, I've learned to adjust, but yeah, my whole life I've been just deeply cynical, where it's led to a lot of depression, a lot of isolation, and so yeah.
Well, I think you're finding, your tribe a little bit online, and I think you're getting more. I don't know if it's more support than outrage, because every time I find like a Carney thread on Facebook, I immediately scroll to see how many comments. I'm like, 300 comments, my God!
Yeah, and they're like, "Fuck you! I'll fucking kill you! You fucking!"
Oh my God! Yeah, I'm like blown away at how emotionally attached people. And by the way, sometimes I know when you're gassing them up a little bit too.
Yeah,
like I know you enough to know that you might 20% believe it, but you're 90% fucking gassing people up in the process.
Yeah, like I there is a weird part of me that enjoys the trolling aspect of these fucking lunatics. Like, it's upsetting to me, and I don't want to engage. I really don't, but it becomes an itch I have to scratch. So it's like once every 2 weeks. I go about like a week and a half where I'm like, I don't need to engage. These people are idiots. They're nuts. There's no change in them. It's not worth it. And then something comes over me for like 1 or 2 days where it just like eats away at me. And I will not stop thinking about it until I can just post it and just like fuck with these people. And then I go into this war and get really like empowered and like, I'll win. And then like once I come down, I'm like, oh, that was really scary, and I'm really traumatized, and I just like want to be like 12 years old again with a teddy bear. And then the next day I'm strong again. And so then I'm 2 more weeks of being quiet and not really like ruffling any feathers. And then it happens. It's now like a routine. And so, yeah, and I kind of enjoy, I'm really good at, I'm like a word sniper or something. Like, I can really kind of cut with my words. And so in a way, like sometimes I can use that skill.
I would use the word surgical. You have a very surgical vocabulary.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Apparently I do as well. Apparently I do as well.
Well,
thinking of it.
We're smart.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, no, I'm definitely smart enough to like have surgical vocabulary, but not to like actually be a surgeon. I'm so scientifically not smart. But yeah, so
that's not why I can't be a surgeon. I would 100% be like, do we even know if we should save this fucking guy? I mean,
I
does he have a
know.
resume? Like, the Hippocratic
Yeah.
oath would escape me very quickly because I would be like, I don't know about, like, I would literally drop the tools and I'm like, this guy seems like a real piece of shit. Can we all agree that we should maybe like, oh no, we couldn't save him? Like,
Yeah, that would be funny to have like a resume, something before you go into surgery to like assess, okay, is this guy like, is it, first of all, is he worth operating on? Second of all, if we start to lose him, is it worth the extra energy to save him? You should put
yeah.
like levels
I mean,
of
like, yeah, how
of
hard should we
worthiness.
really try to keep this fucking guy alive? Because,
Yeah,
and I think they actually do that because sometimes you'll see like a celebrity go through
probably.
something that 99% of people would not survive, and they come out with full functionality, and you go like, wow, like how do they? And then like you'll see somebody who's like just a normal everyday piece of shit dude, and he'll get like grazed with a fucking piece of shrapnel off of a bullet that hit somebody else, and they're like, that guy was dead on arrival, we couldn't save him. You're like,
Yeah,
really?
it's not the
Same
it's not
doctors?
they wanted it was lunchtime, you know?
Like, did you see what Kevin Hart's car looked like from that accident? Like,
No.
it's a fucking miracle that that dude lived.
Well,
And
it's because he's so tiny. He
that's
just like
what
went
people
into the
joke.
little
Yeah.
cubby.
Yeah, they were like, well, he was safely nestled in the glove box, so
Yes,
that's how he
exactly.
survived it. But like the
Exactly.
fact that that guy's even like up and walking around is amazing. But you'll see these people go through these like just like
Yeah.
life altering accidents, and they come out unscathed. And then you'll see somebody who is like my girlfriend's grandfather was like slipped and or like was feeling a little unwell, went to the hospital, slipped and fell in the hospital, died in the hospital.
That's
And it's like,
me. That's
uh,
gonna be me, I'm telling you.
yeah. And
I
so
am
it's just
him.
like it was like, oh yeah, I think I have gas or something, I've got an
Right.
upset stomach. You go to the hospital and it's like that scene in the Matrix when he knocks over the vase and she's like, you have to wonder if you would have done it had I not said anything. Like, so um it's really weird to like find yourself in that situation where something happens to you because you were essentially trying to prevent it from happening, and the prevention is what caused it.
Yeah, there's a really cool, like, I don't know what it is, poem or something. Oh no, I know where it's from. It's from the book Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. He was in Auschwitz and survived the Holocaust. And he
One of my business partners is reading that book right now. Literally just showed the cover of it to me the other day.
Oh, amazing. Well, you
It's so
found
weird.
Man's Search for Meaning, so you search.
Yeah.
Uh, but that book really actually stuck with me. And usually I'm not into that kind of stuff. But it was like, you can have someone take everything away from you, but you can never let them take what's inside. Essentially, is kind of what the book gets to. But there's a story in there that he tells, and I don't know if it's an ancient story or something, but it's about a guy going out of his way to run away from death. And because he goes so out of his way to run away from death, he runs directly into it.
Yes. Yeah.
So
That's like, I feel like that's so many sort of like Twilight Zone things where,
yeah, yeah,
we end up it's like becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like you can't escape it. Like,
yeah.
did you ever read Oedipus Rex in school?
I did, but I can't really remember it, but we did.
Yeah. So, basically the
He
story of Oedipus is that,
he
this
like loved
king,
his dad or something.
no, this
No.
great king it was prophesied to him that someday his child would murder him and marry his own mother. And
Right.
so
Yes. Yes.
so the king, and I don't remember if Oedipus is the king or the kid, but so to prevent that, sends the kid away, banishes him beyond the walls of the kingdom, to never be seen, and he's supposed to be murdered. And the reality is the person who takes the baby out to murder it doesn't murder it, and he grows up in this completely different world and becomes powerful, and then decides to take over this kingdom, conquers the kingdom, slays the king, ends up fucking his own mother. And it's like, none of
Yes.
that would have happened if you didn't try to avoid having it happen.
Exactly.
And
And
so,
that's why I almost get nervous about just like trying too hard, or I'm paranoid that it's like it's just going to lead the wrong way. So I think right now I'm just more comfortable because I'm like, I'm just not trying anything, and it feels safe in a way. Like I'm
yeah.
just doing rather than having an intent. And it's like, I don't know, it doesn't feel as scary.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of good in that. Like, there's a lot of
Yeah.
good in just trying to say, like, okay, let me just do things as they sort of organically rise, and just focus on what I can control, and let the chips fall where they may, so to speak, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but even as I say that now, I'm like, well, maybe though, because I'm not trying, it's going to lead to me
Yeah.
doing the thing that's going to get me slipped and killed at the hospital. Like maybe then I do need to try. And, I overthink everything and just
Yeah, I
become a
think,
lunatic.
I think you just gotta go with your gut, as they
Yeah.
say. And I've got a
Yeah.
lot of it to go with.
You got a big one.
I do. It's good. And I don't mind sharing it on the gram. Anybody who's watching wants to get a old peek at the goods, they could just follow me on Instagram and they'll get a
It's
nice
worth
old.
it.
It is. I mean, I don't know if it's worth it. I mean,
No, it is. It is.
maybe if people are paying by the pound, it's a very good deal. But yeah, I mean, obviously you've still got the podcast, you've got the business. I mean, do you want to plug your podcast for people so they can come find you?
Yeah, sure. Well, I usually do a podcast called Kristen Chill, which used to
Yes.
be about mental health and depression, but then it turned into like just neuroses and talk about overthinking and stuff like that. That I have not done since April, I think is the last episode I did because of everything going on. I'm like, I need a break because what I really want to talk about is how annoyed I am with the world, and that's not really the topic of the podcast. So I don't want to get into it with my listeners because I don't know if they'll be on my side or not, blah, blah, blah. So I've just taken a pause from that. So if you guys wanted to check out my other podcast, it's all about dating and relationships called Ask Women. And so that's every Thursday it comes out. And I teach dudes how to banter with the ladies. And
That's good.
yeah, it's really kind of a cool business I have. And I've gotten now two dudes have told me that they're engaged. I've been doing it for 2 years. So over the 2 years, two guys have said they've gotten engaged and they met their wife using my banter skills
That's
that
amazing.
that I taught them. Yeah.
Are
So
there is there any like snippet or nugget you could give people that are watching that or that do watch this that would make them like hit you up and be like, I think I need your expertise.
so banter is way bigger of a thing than you'd ever imagine. So it's very complex. But the one thing I'll say is if you want to be witty and say clever things and learn how to be not a funny guy, but just someone who's insightful and can say funny things. There's a little way to do it. It's a little technique that I call the correlation method. And really, all it is connecting two things together and then presenting them in a surprising way. And it sounds very vague. But if you're looking at a girl's profile on Hinge or something or on Bumble, and you happen to see that she says I don't know, I'm just pulling this out of my ass. Like she loves painting, like she's a painter and she's also a clean freak. You just make correlations to say something that no guy said before so that she'll answer you because everyone goes in with like, hey, how's your weekend? Oh, I also like painting, like all these kind of boring mundane things. To say something that they've never heard before, use this little correlation thing. So you look for things that connect in the profile and then you do little word associations with those things that connect, and all of a sudden boom, you've got a little witty thing to say. So like if it's a girl with the painting and being a clean freak, you say something about like she's I'm this is terrible, it's not going to sound funny at all, like she's the Van Gogh, like do you paint, you're like the Van Gogh of Lysol or something like that, and that's not a great example, but making connections to just say something that no guy has said before will get dudes answers on dating apps because they're never getting answered. So
Oh, so
yeah.
yours is more about like dating kind of in the technological age,
I know,
basically.
like someone said Z. I know that was like a super bad example. Yeah, so it's mainly
Is this good
for,
banter when they tell you you're putting them to sleep? Does that get you all hot and bothered?
yes, my goal has been achieved. I'm like, wow, I'm
Yeah.
really going places
Yeah.
in life.
See, this
Yeah.
would be Neon Bible. This is textbook negging, and that is not what we do in 2020.
It is textbook negging.
I'm waiting for Neon Bible to drop a dick pic into the chat. That's also not
Well,
what you do.
I would give it right back to him when we're in bed together with the Z's because I'm sure that's what I would be doing with him.
Ah, there you go. See, that's good witty
Burn.
banter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically that's just like a little beginning idea of saying things that are slightly, kind of, I don't know, witty, clever.
So
I'm blowing this description.
no, but in a way, like we're kind of in the same space now in our other projects because I'm in business development for an advertising agency. That's what this hat is. And
Oh.
it's basically my job to get brands interested in talking to us about working on their advertising. And you're kind of just teaching men on how to send out the right messages to get people interested in their dicks.
Right. Yes, literally. And then
So
hopefully,
you're literally doing like business development,
literally business
trying to get,
time.
yeah, exactly. So that's kind of funny. We're sort of in the same space professionally
Yeah,
now,
because
which
it's
is like
marketing. Basically,
it
dating
is.
online is marketing, and all these guys are dull as fuck. And so, if you just say something that's relatively not dull, like Neon Bible just said, this is making him sleepy. So, if you say
Yeah.
something not like me being dull, girls will respond, and all of a sudden, you're having more dates. But that's
Now,
I
now theoretically, couldn't someone just memorize all of Seinfeld and then manipulate you into loving them?
Yes, actually, my standards are so low that they
Yes.
could just say I memorized Seinfeld, and I would be like, let's fuck. I am so desperate at this point.
You're gonna get so many. You're gonna get so many Kramers like slipping into your DMs in the next, 30 minutes of levels,
As
Kristen. They're
long
all it's
yeah,
levels.
as long as they break in through the door like he does, I'm in, I'm horny.
That's
I'm into
good.
it.
That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah, Lando in the chat's like these pretzels are making me thirsty. You got to go
These
deep. You
dicks
got
are
to go.
making me thirsty.
Yeah, you got to go deeper than that, though. Like you can't do the no soup for you, and these pretzels are making me thirsty, and Serenity now. You got to do. You got to get the deep cuts to get
Yeah, you
Kristen
do.
all juiced up. You got to
Oh my
go.
god.
You got to pull out the Babu Bot quotes. You got to pull
Yep.
those out. You got
Yep.
to
You're very
Dream
bad now.
Cafe. Yes.
Mm-hmm. This is what I
Um.
want the weenie to do after. No, I'm saying this.
You're very bad, Jenny.
This is
Uh,
what his weenie's doing.
yeah, exactly. You need to know about the big salad.
Of
You got.
course.
I mean,
Can you put it in a big bowl? We don't
yeah.
have big salads. Yes, it has to be the deep cuts for me.
Yes,
To
the first
cut
time
me
you come
deep.
over her place and do laundry, you better pour concrete into machines. Like you got to be really into the deep. It's only 8 seasons. Do your fucking homework.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually kind of seeing a guy right now, and
Oh,
he's
there you
like,
go.
he likes Seinfeld, but he doesn't know all Seinfeld, and I'm just like trying to just be okay with it, like
It's
because
really
my whole life it's been I need to be with someone who is a massive Seinfeld fan. But I've learned, ironically, a lot of guys that I've dated who have been massive Seinfeld fans have not been the best guys.
yeah.
So I'm like, wait, how can you be a bad person and like Seinfeld? I thought it would mean you're a good person if you
You
like
do
Seinfeld,
know
but
that
it's
show is
opposite.
entirely about bad people, right?
Yes,
Like
but
that
like
was
they're like good bad people.
they're
Like I'm
fun
a good
bad
bad
people.
person.
Yeah, but Tim Dillon talks about this all the time that the most fun people are the biggest pieces of shit that he's ever known in his entire life.
Yeah, but the reason they're not big pieces of shit is because they're aware that they're big pieces of shit. Whereas there's the social justice warriors, like they're pieces of shit because they're masquerading as these like great people and won't admit that they're really just narcissistic. Whereas the
Mhm.
pieces of shit, they'll at least admit they're narcissistic. Like that's the whole joke. Jerry, George, Elaine, they're all narcissists, but they admit it, and that's why they're likable. And so
Yes.
I can love a good asshole, like a good piece of shit. If they admit they're a piece of shit, I'm into it. I think they're quite honorable at that point.
Yes. I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
That is the tough thing too, is like so often you find out that like a lot of times the people that like some of the things you like, you're not really just compatible with because
Yeah, it's
some of the things I'm into that I like, I have like nothing in common with the people that like those things. Does that make
yeah,
sense? And
yes, it
so like
does. It
it's like
does.
as much as so a good example is like as much as I love the UFC, I'm not a UFC guy. Like I
Thank
love the
God. I would not
sport.
be on this podcast if you
Yeah, I
were.
was like, but I love fighting. I know a lot about fighting. I know a lot about history and fights and stuff like that. But like 90% of the dudes that are really into that shit, I just would never be friends with because there's
Right.
nothing else we would have in common to talk about, right?
Right.
And it's kind of that way a little bit with like I love football. Same thing. I love football, but like there are a lot of football fans I can't fucking stand. I used to say this about bands. Like I was never able to get into the band Tool because I hate their fans. Because like no one can ever just be like, I like Tool too. They got to be like, I fucking knew about them before anybody knew about.
Yeah.
Like I was back when they were just a fucking rubber mallet. I knew Tool. Like it's so
Right.
annoying. And so yeah, like there are a lot of things that I enjoy that I can't really get into the fandom of because I hate the other fans of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm like that basically with anything that has to do with health, like yoga, hiking. Like I enjoy doing that shit, but I would never in a million years be like, friends with like yoga girls or like
Yeah.
hiking clubs. Like I couldn't know. Oh
Well,
my
those are the
God.
girls who end up in a sex cult. Like
I know.
they're just like, I love yoga so much, and then they're on like Goop Netflix show a year later, like, I didn't know it was a sex cult until I got raped 47 times and realized it's not one of the moves.
I thought I was just making the vagina candle that whole time.
Yeah, we were watching an episode of Unwell last night, and they were talking about like some kind of tantric massage, which is basically just getting fucked. And she's like, I didn't know that meant that until I was being fucked. And I was like, yeah, I kind of would have known that it was that before I got fucked. I would have been like, you're taking your dick out. This doesn't feel like a massage.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, it would still be worth it though for me. I'm the guy I'm seeing is far away, so.
Oh, there you go. So you're like, I would be taken advantage of under the guise of it being a yoga situation. You know, I would also just look the other way and go, no, this is fine.
It is true. All that stuff to me is so culty and creepy. Like anyone who goes to like I've had people on my
spin
podcast.
Classes are like that shit too.
Well, that's like like boot camp for Nazis.
Yeah, Soul Cycle people where they're like,
nuts.
yes.
Yeah, no, I've never gotten into groups. I have a fear of groups. They make me uncomfortable. I didn't have a group in high school, didn't have one in college, still don't have one. I don't like groups, whether it's like a group for like a positive reason or a group to just go out and drink alcohol with. I just don't want to be in a group. It's too much coordination. Like, we got to go over here now. And then, we have to wait for this girl because she's like talking to someone. So now we have to wait in a group. And then the group, it's like, no, let me just get my shit and let me move on and I'll work out on my own or get a fucking drink by myself. Like, I just can't do the group. One person, two people, good. No more. Can't do that.
Anything beyond that is like where you're requiring a consensus to take action on something. Is like,
yes, that's what it is.
So it's like, if you have so many people that you have to stop to take a vote to decide that's too many people.
Yeah, absolutely.
You should just be able to go, hey, you go with it, you go with it. Okay, cool, let's go. But if you got to be like, okay, everybody, are we going to this place or this place? That's too many people.
It's too many people.
It's not, and those are often very white, those groups of people. Yeah. So it's quite a vanilla experience across the board where you're just like, this is too many white people.
Well, when I was a kid, just to keep what's his name sleeping over there, Neon Bible. When I was a kid, I was in a performing group and we traveled. I was a dancer and we would travel to do different shows, like kind of Broadway like shows. And when we would travel, we all had to wear the exact same shirt. And it would usually be a neon color, like a lime green or a neon yellow. And we'd have to wear matching shorts, and it'd be a group of 20 of us in a public place, and it would just be chaos. And I think that's what made me super anti-group, because it was my growing up. It was just constant. Okay, everyone, we're meeting here. Okay, everyone, now we're meeting there. And then it's like, I don't want to go there. Like, I'm tired. I'm hungry. And it would just be standing around for the majority of the day. So anyway, I did do a lot of grouping as a kid, and I've run away from it now.
I can't say that I blame you because I get it.
Yeah.
I totally get it.
It's hard to look cool in a neon shirt in a group of drama club kids.
I wouldn't fucking know.
Good. No,
I was not even invited to that.
Yeah.
No, I was in a drama class when I was in high school, but it was like a study hall, and we skipped it a lot to go to concerts. So, you know,
Rebels.
we were a bunch of little badasses we were in high school, but you know, that's how we all end up where we are.
Asses?
Yeah, that too. No, that was after. I mean, that started in high school and then it just sort of never stopped. So, you know, it's ultimately, you know, it's a fun time. So where can people find you? So you've already plugged your business a little bit, but if people want to hit you up for business and your podcast and stuff like that, they have a website, your social you can go to.
Yeah, you can go to KristenandChill.com. So it's really like lame, like a play on Netflix and chill. KristenandChill.com, and that's where you can find me.
Yeah, here we go. If I had my shit together, I would have had this done before this, and then I would have just been able to be like, boom.
Well, you're pretty smooth with the like interacting with the messaging and then putting the name up there. I wouldn't be able to do that.
I'll fool you. I'm not smooth. I'm just fat enough to where you can't see my head move very often. So it works out well.
Yeah. Like
But
I'm only
yeah,
yeah.
no, yeah. What were you gonna say?
No, it was a bad joke, like one of those things that stabilize a camera when it's shaky, like that's what your head's on.
Steady cam? Yeah.
Yeah, Steadicam, yeah.
Yeah. If that were made out of like meats and cheeses, then yeah, I would agree with you. It's basically it's a steady ham, if we're thinking about it.
Yeah.
It's pretty much made out of entirely processed meat. But Kristen, thanks for coming on the show. It's been fun. I don't want to keep you all night because I know you're on the East Coast and it's getting late there. But as always, a pleasure chatting with you.
Same.
Don't let the darkness consume you entirely. It's a fucking crazy place out there. But I feel like the more you keep putting your authentic shit out there, the more you're going to kind of slowly build and grab people that are following along for the right reasons and are interested. But you can't deny that you get a little bit of pleasure out of pissing them off too.
I do. I
Yeah.
do. Hey,
Well,
you got
cool.
nothing else to do. Why not make people miserable?
Yeah, there you go. That's
No, that's totally honestly not true
Nope,
at all.
that's how we're ending. I'm ending the
Great.
break.